Greetings from the Horn Studio at the University of Oklahoma. This is a clinic for Texas high school students that are competing in the 2015-2016 All-State Honor Groups. The first selection I will be working on is the Gallay study found on page 60 in the required book. This actually comes from his 12 studies for second horn. This is the very first etude. As we look at this piece, we have to first realize that all these Gallay studies, at least these first two that are chosen, come from this second studies for second horn, and these are in essence character studies. So not only do we have to play them accordingly to the technique that is required, but we also have to put a musical component. It's Allegro Maestoso. The recommended metronome marking is 88 to 120. We have to look at all the directions though in the music for an effective performance. The first thing that you see is fieramente, meaning with fire. So this has a lot of bravura and attitude. Also, we have to make sure that we make a difference between the regular staccato dots and the carotid staccato that's elongated. That elongated staccato is clearly separated and isolated from all the notes around it. So it's the shortest articulation, it's a good dot and very dry. So if we look at the first passage, we have the staccatos leading up to that dot. What I recommend is, first of all, play the staccatos thinking more light rather than articulate. Also, the tie that's going into that first triplet, I recommend you cut that off because the students that I've heard are almost always late coming in on the last two notes of that triplet pickup into beat 4. So really cut it off so you're ready to go in time. Yeah, so you have that arrival up on top and a nice big fat accented note down on the bottom. Make sure that when you have traditional accents, it's equal stress of tongue and air, and the note sounds like the mark. It starts more aggressive at the beginning, then trails off. So we have this nice attitude. Then, at measure 5, we go on, and it's a lot more flexible. Notice how I separated that at number 6. We lead into it on a nice arpeggiated passage getting into 6, and then we, on the first note of that triplet, it's very isolated, and then we go to a jagged rhythm at the end and play it with a lot of flair. Almost like it's like you're tossing it off. And then when we get into 9, measure 9, make sure that we're playing the larger interval. When we get into passages like this, concentrate first on the melody notes, which are the chromatics. So starting on beat 4 of measure 8 on the B flat, just do that a couple of times. Then play your G below middle C. Nice and easy. Do that a couple of times, pulling away from the mouth. Develop a feel for where it's automatic. Then when you play that passage, just concentrate on the chromatic notes going up and just put the G's in automatic pilot. And then you lean on that return to the E. Then you have another flourish getting into 11, and it's extended. With that little button. And then we're off again, just like it was at the beginning. Okay, now we have an even greater problem. We have something that's similar to 9, but he's now turned it into a triplet. And please play the triplet. Don't use the simplified version. So the best way to do this, first you establish that chromatic. Then add the second note and back off it. I'll do that again. And try to put the notes on the same plane instead of going here and down. Ba-ba, 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 ba. Now, it's time to return to our low G. Again, remember where that was. You develop a feel. This time, we're going to treat that G as a pickup to the melody. So, what you need to do next is play the first and the third notes of each triplet. And then you put it together with the first G almost being an afterthought. And it might help you just to increase the dynamic level ever so slightly. Then you reach up to the resolution E natural at measure 22, and then you have another flourish that gets you to the downbeat of 23. Now, at 23, you have this long slur mark, and then you have the accents. I know that some teachers are teaching this as a legato tone, or a heavy legato tone. I don't necessarily agree with that. In my expertise, I've always treated this as the heaviest of all the slurs. If it was articulated, it would be the slur with the dots with a dash. But when you have a slur mark with accents, it's the heaviest of all slurs with a good push of air with your abdominal muscles. It's more emphatic. I said, yes, I meant to say that. Then we immediately have con espressione. Sort of like we're taking back our anger or aggressiveness. And it's a little bit more subtle. Yes, there is a problem right there, and I fell into it that time because I really didn't prepare, is at 28. Where do you take that breath? It's really, really difficult to do. You can make a slight catch breath after the arrival on beat 2, but that's part of a triplet, so it's very, very difficult. What I recommend is taking a real big, huge breath at measure 26 before the B flat. And then, if you can, delay your breath until the downbeat of 30. Let's see how that goes. I'm going to take it back at 24 to see if I can put my practice where my mouth was. Well, success. But I'm taking a really big breath, getting into that triplet passage at 24, and again, right between the first and second beats of 26. Then at 30, you can have the luxury of a nice deep breath, and then when you come back in, a nice cantabile to finish up the line. Another problem is the last line has a couple of tricky things in. You have to be jogging in your head with a triplet rhythm, because almost everyone plays the triplets way too slow. So you've been playing 1, 2. That's the speed of it. So also, what I did to help equalize the sonority of the different register changes, I'm bringing out the bottom notes a little bit more. Otherwise, the top notes will sound too loud and the bottom notes will be ghosted as such. So you want them equalized. It takes more energy for lower notes to sound as present as upper notes. And make sure 34 to the end, full value on these notes. Full value. Off on 1, that whole note. So let's hear what this sounds like in its entirety. Thus ends the first clinic for the 2015-16 TMEA All-State Auditions in Horn. Please look for other clinics forthcoming, and I certainly wish you all the best of luck. Thank you for taking the time and visiting with me.